Ethan Carter had always been a man of simple pleasures. He lived in a small town in Nebraska, where the nights were quiet and the stars seemed closer than anywhere else. By day, he taught history to high school students who often found his lectures fascinating but predictable. By night, however, Ethan became someone different, an explorer of the cosmos. With an old radio telescope he pieced together from spare parts, he scanned the skies, hoping to catch whispers from the universe. On one such evening, as the wind rustled through the cornfields outside his home, Ethan noticed something unusual. A faint signal pulsed through the static on his equipment. At first, he thought it was just interference, maybe from a passing plane or a distant storm. But the pattern repeated itself, 3 quick bursts followed by 2 slower ones, over and over again. It wasn't random noise. This was deliberate. Curiosity tugged at him like a stubborn thread. He recorded the signal and spent hours replaying it, trying to make sense of its rhythm. The next night, the signal returned, stronger this time. Ethan's heart raced. Could this be what he'd dreamed about all his life? Was this proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe? He called Rachel Meyer, his oldest friend. Rachel was practical, level-headed, and brilliant with computers, everything Ethan wasn't. She listened patiently as he explained what he found. "It's probably nothing," she said after hearing him out, though her tone betrayed a flicker of intrigue. Still, she agreed to stop by the next day to take a look. When Rachel arrived, she brought her laptop and a box of donuts. They sat in Ethan's cluttered workshop, surrounded by cables, tools, and half-finished projects. Rachel connected her computer to the telescope and began analyzing the data. Hours passed before she finally spoke. "There's more to this than I thought," she murmured, her eyes glued to the screen. She pointed to a series of numbers flashing across the monitor. "This part here, it's binary code." Ethan leaned forward, his pulse quickening. Together, they started decoding the message bit by bit. It was slow work, but eventually, fragments of words emerged. "Summon. Us." The phrase sent chills down their spines. Summon who? And why? Before they could dig deeper, the signal vanished. No matter how hard Ethan tried, he couldn't pick it up again. Frustrated but intrigued, he suggested they share their findings with someone who might know more. Rachel hesitated. "Are you sure we should do that?" she asked. "What if people think we're crazy?" But Ethan couldn't let it go. He sent the decoded message and recordings to a few astronomy forums online. Within days, things spiraled beyond anything he could have imagined. Government officials showed up at his door, asking questions he couldn't answer. News outlets ran stories about strange signals coming from space. And then something even stranger happened. Around the world, reports surfaced of massive structures rising from underground bunkers. Sleek, metallic ships emerged into the light, each bristling with advanced weapons and glowing engines. These weren't human-made. They looked like something straight out of science fiction. People whispered that the signal Ethan had discovered had awakened them, that somehow he had triggered events no one could control. Ethan felt a mix of awe and dread. What had he unleashed? And what would happen next? For now, all he knew was that life, as he understood it, had changed forever. Ethan and Rachel stood side by side in a sterile, windowless room deep beneath Washington, D.C. The air smelled faintly of metal and disinfectant, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Across the table sat Dr. Alan Hayes, a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. He introduced himself as an astrophysicist working for NASA's Advanced Research Division. His calm demeanor didn't hide the weight of what he was about to say. "You two have stumbled onto something extraordinary," Dr. Hayes began, leaning forward slightly. "That signal you found, it wasn't just some random broadcast from space. It was a key, a very specific one." Ethan frowned. "A key to what?" Dr. Hayes hesitated before answering. "To technology we've had under our feet for thousands of years." He gestured toward a large screen on the wall behind him. With a tap of his finger, images appeared, Photos of sleek, otherworldly ships emerging from underground bunkers around the globe. Some were partially buried in deserts, others rising from frozen tundras or dense jungles. Each ship looked identical, massive, triangular, and covered in glowing blue lines that pulsed like veins. Rachel crossed her arms, her brow furrowed. "Are you saying these things are alien?" "They're ancient," Dr. Hayes corrected. "Left here by a civilization long gone. But they weren't meant to stay hidden forever. That signal you decoded, it activated them. It unlocked their systems." Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "So this is my fault. I woke up warships." Dr. Hayes shook his head firmly. "Not your fault. You did exactly what they were designed to make you do. These ships were created to respond to intelligent life capable of understanding their language. Your discovery proves humanity is ready. Or at least, that's what the creators believed." The room fell silent as Ethan and Rachel absorbed the enormity of what they'd heard. Warships, ancient aliens, humanity being tested. It sounded like the plot of a movie, not real life. "What happens now?" Rachel asked finally, breaking the quiet. Dr. Hayes sighed. "Now we figure out how to use them. Governments worldwide are scrambling to understand the technology, but it's clear these ships weren't built for humans. They require pilots, people who can interface with their controls. And since you two played a role in activating them, you've been requested to assist." "Wait," Ethan interrupted, holding up a hand. "We're not soldiers. We don't know anything about flying spaceships." "You don't need to fly them yet," Dr. Hayes assured him. "But your connection to the summoning event makes you uniquely valuable. You'll help train the crews learning to operate these vessels. Time is short. If we don't prepare quickly, we may regret it." As if on cue, alarms blared through the facility. Red lights flashed, casting eerie shadows across the walls. Dr. Hayes glanced at his watch, then back at Ethan and Rachel. "Another message has arrived, from the ships themselves. Follow me." They hurried down a series of corridors until they reached a control room filled with monitors and frantic technicians. On one screen, a sequence of symbols translated into stark, chilling words. "The Krylos Dominion approaches. Prepare for invasion." Ethan swallowed hard. "Who, or what, are the Krylos?" Dr. Hayes' expression darkened. "An enemy unlike any humanity has ever faced. Their fleet is already on the edge of our solar system. We have weeks, maybe less, to get ready." Rachel gripped the edge of the desk, her knuckles white. "And those ships are our only chance." "They're all we've got," Dr. Hayes replied grimly. Turning to Ethan, he added, "This isn't just history anymore. This is survival. Are you ready to step up?" Ethan looked at Rachel, seeing the same mix of fear and determination reflected in her eyes. Whatever lay ahead, they couldn't turn back now. Ethan and Rachel stood on the observation deck of a sprawling military base, staring out at the alien warship known as the Aegis Dawn Asterisk. It loomed in the distance, its triangular shape gleaming under the harsh desert sun. Soldiers in uniform moved briskly around them, their boots crunching against the gravel. The air buzzed with tension, a mix of fear and excitement rippling through everyone present. Captain Laura Bennett approached them, her posture straight and commanding. She was younger than Ethan had expected, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. "You're here because you're part of this," she said without preamble, her voice firm but not unkind. "The signal you found brought us to this moment. Now we need your help." Rachel shifted uncomfortably. "We're not pilots or engineers. We don't even know how these ships work." "You don't need to," Captain Bennett replied. "But you've already proven you can decode their language. That makes you valuable. Right now, every second counts. The Krylos fleet is closing in, and we need answers fast." She led them aboard the Aegis Dawn Asterisk, where the interior felt both futuristic and alien. Smooth walls glowed faintly, and strange symbols hovered in midair, shifting colors when touched. Technicians worked frantically to understand the ship's systems, while soldiers practiced operating weapons they barely understood. As they walked deeper into the vessel, Captain Bennett explained more about the Krylos Dominion. "They're conquerors," she said bluntly. "They sweep through star systems, wiping out civilizations and taking whatever resources they want. Their technology is advanced, but brutal. If they reach Earth, it won't just be war. It'll be extermination." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "How do we stop them?" "We fight back," Bennett answered simply. "These ships are our best chance. But there's a catch. They aren't fully automated. Some systems require human input. Pilots have to sync with the controls mentally, almost like merging with the ship itself." Rachel frowned. "What happens if something goes wrong? What if someone can't handle it?" Bennett hesitated before answering. "Then the ship shuts down. Or worse, it malfunctions. That's why training is critical. And that's where you come in." Over the next few days, Ethan and Rachel threw themselves into learning everything they could. They studied holographic maps of the galaxy projected by the ship's core, deciphered fragments of alien text, and helped translate commands for the crew. Despite their lack of experience, they quickly became essential members of the team. Not everyone welcomed their presence, though. Lieutenant Daniel Harper, a cocky pilot with a short temper, made no secret of his disdain. "This isn't a science project," he snapped one day during a training session. "We don't need civilians slowing us down." Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe, a quiet woman with a knack for problem-solving, shot him a glare. "They've done more in a week than most of us have managed in months. Show some respect." Tensions flared often, but Ethan tried to stay focused. He reminded himself why they were here: to protect Earth. Still, doubt lingered in the back of his mind. Were they truly ready for what lay ahead? One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Rachel joined Ethan on the observation deck. "Do you ever wonder if we should have left things alone?" she asked softly. Ethan sighed, leaning against the railing. "Every day. But it's too late to change anything now. All we can do is keep moving forward." In the distance, stars began to twinkle against the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the Krylos fleet drew closer. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on Ethan's shoulders, but he knew one thing for certain: giving up wasn't an option. The human fleet gathered near Jupiter, hidden among its icy moons. The plan was risky: a surprise attack to weaken the Krylos forces before they reached Earth. Ethan and Rachel sat in the command center of the Aegis Dawn *, watching as Lieutenant Daniel Harper led a squadron of smaller fighters toward the edge of the system. Their mission was simple: lure the enemy into range. Rachel tapped nervously on her tablet, scanning data streams from the alien ships. "They're fast," she muttered. "Faster than we thought." Ethan nodded, his eyes glued to the monitors showing live footage of the battle unfolding. The Krylos fleet loomed like shadows against the stars, massive, jagged vessels bristling with weapons. When the first shots fired, the silence in space made it surreal. Bright flashes erupted as lasers streaked across the void, followed by explosions that lit up the darkness. Harper's squadron darted between asteroids, dodging enemy fire. "Hold steady," he barked over the comms. His voice was calm despite the chaos around him. One fighter exploded, sending shards of metal spiraling into the void. Another veered off course, its pilot screaming before static cut him off. Back on the Aegis Dawn *, Captain Laura Bennett paced the bridge, issuing orders with precision. "Target their lead ship," she commanded. "If we can disable it, the rest will scatter." Lisa Monroe worked furiously at her station, rerouting power to the ship's main cannon. "Charging weapon systems," she announced. "We'll have one shot at this." Ethan leaned closer to Rachel. "What can we do?" She hesitated, then pointed to a cluster of symbols flashing on her screen. "These patterns, they look familiar. I think they're targeting algorithms. If we can disrupt them, we might confuse their aim." Without hesitation, Ethan grabbed a nearby console and began entering commands based on Rachel's instructions. Together, they sent bursts of scrambled signals toward the Krylos fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the enemy ships faltered, its cannons firing wildly off course. "We did it!" Rachel exclaimed, but her joy was short-lived. The Krylos adapted quickly, countering the interference. A barrage of missiles streaked toward the Aegis Dawn *. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to raise shields. "Brace for impact," Bennett shouted. The ship shuddered violently as the missiles struck. Lights flickered, and sparks flew from overloaded panels. Ethan stumbled, catching himself on a railing. Across the room, Rachel clung to her seat, her face pale but determined. Despite the damage, the shields held, for now. "Damage report," Bennett demanded. "Shields are down to 40%, Lisa replied, her hands flying over her controls. "Engines are stable, but we lost 2 turrets." Bennett turned to Harper. "Fall back to defensive positions. We need time to regroup." As the fighters retreated, the Krylos launched boarding parties onto several damaged human ships. Soldiers in sleek black armor poured through breaches, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat in zero gravity. Ethan watched in horror as footage showed men and women fighting desperately, their movements jerky and awkward in the weightless environment. Captain Bennett turned to Ethan and Rachel. "We're losing ground. We need another advantage. Now." Rachel's eyes widened as an idea struck her. "Wait, the summoning signal. What if we reverse engineer it? Maybe we can use it to jam their communications." Ethan nodded. "It's worth a try." They raced to the engineering bay, working side by side to modify the original signal. Time seemed to blur as they pieced together fragments of code, testing and retesting until they had something viable. Finally, Rachel hit the send button. The signal pulsed out into space, invisible but powerful. For a moment, uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Then, the Krylos ships wavered. Their movements slowed, and their coordinated attacks faltered. It wasn't a complete victory, but it gave humanity a chance to fight back. Exhausted but relieved, Ethan looked at Rachel. "That might have saved us. For now." She smiled weakly. "Let's hope it's enough." The battle near Jupiter had left the human fleet battered but alive. The Aegis Dawn limped back toward Earth, its hull scorched and systems strained. Ethan and Rachel sat in the ship's dimly lit observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of space. Both were quiet, their minds replaying the chaos they'd just survived. Despite the damage, the crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship and prepare for what lay ahead. Captain Laura Bennett called a meeting in the command center. The room was tense as officers filed in, their faces etched with fatigue. "We hit them hard," Bennett began, her voice steady despite the weariness in her eyes. "But it wasn't enough. They'll regroup and come after us again. We need more ships, more firepower." Rachel raised her hand hesitantly. "What about the other warships? The ones buried underground?" Bennett nodded. "That's exactly where we're headed next. Intelligence suggests there are more ships hidden across the globe. If we can activate them, we might stand a chance." Ethan leaned forward. "How do we find them?" "We follow the map," Rachel said, pulling up a holographic projection on her tablet. It showed Earth dotted with glowing points, locations where the ancient alien builders had buried their technology. This came from the Aegis Dawn *. It's not complete, but it gives us a starting point. The plan was clear: split into teams and race against time to awaken as many ships as possible. Ethan and Rachel volunteered to join one of the teams, knowing their skills would be crucial. Alongside Chief Engineer Lisa Monroe and a small group of soldiers, they boarded a transport shuttle bound for a site deep in the Australian outback. The journey was long and grueling. When they finally arrived, the landscape was barren and desolate, the air thick with heat. A massive crater marked the location, its edges lined with strange metallic debris. At the center stood another warship, half buried in the red dirt. Its surface shimmered faintly, as if alive. "This is it," Lisa said, her voice tinged with awe. "Let's get to work." Activating the ship proved harder than expected. Unlike the Aegis Dawn asterisk, this vessel resisted their attempts to interface with it. Hours passed as Ethan and Rachel pored over data streams, searching for a way to unlock its systems. Frustration mounted until Rachel spotted something. A sequence of symbols that matched part of the summoning signal. "Try this," she said, typing furiously. The ship hummed to life, its glowing lines pulsing brighter. Slowly, it rose from the ground, shaking off centuries of dust and earth. Cheers erupted among the team, but their celebration was short-lived. Overhead, a Krylos scout ship appeared, its shadow falling over the desert like a predator stalking its prey. Lasers rained down, forcing the humans to scatter for cover. "We need to move," Lisa shouted, sprinting toward the newly awakened ship. "Get inside." Ethan and Rachel followed, diving through the hatch as explosions rocked the ground behind them. Inside, the ship felt eerily similar to the Aegis Dawn asterisk, yet subtly different. Symbols floated in the air, shifting and rearranging themselves, as if studying the intruders. Rachel took a deep breath. "We have to figure this out fast, or we're dead." Ethan nodded, his hands trembling as he reached for the controls. Together, they focused all their energy on syncing with the ship's systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the ship roared to life, its weapons charging. Outside, the Krylos scout circled for another attack. But this time, humanity fought back. The new warship unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, striking the enemy with devastating precision. Within moments, the scout exploded in a fiery burst, leaving only silence in its wake. Exhausted but victorious, Ethan slumped into a chair. "One down," he said quietly. "But how many more are coming?" Rachel didn't answer. She stared out at the horizon, her expression grim. They had won a small battle, but the war was far from over. The human fleet was growing, but so was the pressure. With each new warship activated, hope flickered a little brighter. But it came at a cost. Ethan and Rachel had traveled to 3 more sites across the globe, awakening ships buried in frozen wastelands, dense jungles, and even beneath the ocean floor. Each activation brought fresh challenges, hostile environments, Krylos ambushes, and the constant fear of failure. Yet they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that Earth's survival depended on their efforts. During one mission in the Sahara Desert, Ethan noticed something strange. Inside the newly awakened ship, a hidden compartment opened as they sensed with its systems. Inside was a holographic map, not of Earth, but of the galaxy. It showed clusters of stars connected by glowing lines, some marked with symbols that matched those on the warships. At the center of the map was a pulsing icon, labeled in alien script. Rachel ran her fingers over the projection, her brow furrowed. "This isn't just a map," she said softly. "It's a network. These lines, they might lead to other ships, maybe even entire fleets." Captain Bennett studied the map closely when they returned to the Aegis Dawn asterisk. "If this is accurate, there could be hundreds more ships out there," she said, her voice tinged with both excitement and caution. "But we don't have time to search them all. The Krylos are still advancing." Ethan pointed to a cluster of stars near Earth's solar system. "What about these? They're close. Maybe we can reach them before the Krylos get here." Bennett nodded. "It's a risk, but it's our best shot. Prepare the fleet. We're heading out." The journey took days, during which Ethan and Rachel worked tirelessly to decipher the map's details. Along the way, they encountered remnants of the ancient civilization that had built the warships. Ruins floated in the void, their walls covered in carvings that told stories of a proud race undone by internal conflict. One carving depicted humans, or beings very much like them, standing alongside the aliens. The message was clear. Humanity shared a connection with these long-lost creators. When they reached the first location on the map, they found not just ships, but an entire armada, dormant and waiting. As the summoning signal pulsed through space, the vessels awakened one by one, their lights casting eerie shadows across the fleet. Cheers erupted among the crew, but Ethan felt a pang of unease. Something about the scale of it all felt overwhelming. Back aboard the Aegis Dawn *, Captain Bennett addressed the assembled officers. "We've gained strength, but the Krylos will see this as a declaration of war. They won't stop until we're wiped out, or they are." Rachel stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. "There's something else. The ancients didn't build these ships just to fight. They built them to protect, to preserve life. We're not just soldiers. We're guardians now." Her words resonated with everyone present. For the first time, Ethan saw a glimmer of unity among the fractured factions of humanity. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving they were worthy of the legacy left behind. As the fleet prepared for the final showdown, Ethan stood beside Rachel, gazing out at the stars. "Do you think we'll make it?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," she admitted. "But if we do, it won't just be because of the ships. It'll be because of us, all of us." In the distance, the Krylos fleet loomed larger than ever. The battle ahead would be fierce, but for the first time, Ethan felt ready. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it together. The final battle took place above Saturn's rings, a breathtaking yet deadly theater of war. The human fleet, now bolstered by dozens of awakened warships, faced the full might of the Krylos dominion. Their jagged vessels filled the void like an endless swarm, their weapons glowing with menacing energy. For a moment, Ethan wondered if they had made a terrible mistake coming here. But there was no turning back now. Captain Laura Bennett's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, hold formation. Target their command vessel first. If we take it out, the rest will falter." Ethan and Rachel sat in the Aegis Dawn *''s command center, their eyes glued to the monitors. Data streamed across the screens as Rachel worked tirelessly to analyze the enemy's movements. "They're focusing fire on the left flank," she shouted. "Redirect shields there." Ethan relayed her instructions to the crew, his hands trembling but his voice steady. Around them, chaos erupted. Lasers streaked through space, explosions lit up the darkness, and debris floated like ghostly remnants of destroyed ships. The humans fought fiercely, their newly awakened vessels proving more than a match for the Krylos. Still, the enemy outnumbered them. "Captain, they're launching boarding parties," someone yelled from across the room. Bennett clenched her fists. "Seal all hatches. Prepare for close combat." Ethan froze, his mind racing. He wasn't trained for this, but then he remembered something Rachel had said earlier. They weren't just soldiers. They were guardians. Summoning every ounce of courage, he grabbed a plasma rifle and joined the others stationed near the airlock. When the Krylos forces breached the hull, he fired blindly, his heart pounding. Beside him, Lieutenant Daniel Harper led the charge, shouting orders as they pushed the invaders back. Meanwhile, Rachel remained in the command center, her focus unshakable. She spotted a pattern in the Krylos attacks, a vulnerability in their command shielding. "We can hit them now," she exclaimed. "Divert power to the main cannon." Lisa Monroe worked quickly, rerouting energy to the weapon systems. The Aegis Dawn * shuddered as it charged its cannon, aiming directly at the enemy flagship. When the shot fired, it pierced through the Krylos defenses, striking the command vessel with devastating force. The massive ship exploded, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Without their leader, the Krylos fleet began to retreat. Cheers erupted among the human crew, but Captain Bennett silenced them with a raised hand. "Stay alert. This isn't over until they're completely gone." Hours passed as the humans pursued the retreating forces, picking off stragglers and ensuring no threat remained. By the time the last Krylos ship vanished into the depths of space, exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone. Ethan collapsed into a chair, his body aching, but his spirit soaring. They had done it. Against all odds, they had won. In the days that followed, Earth celebrated its unlikely victory. Ethan and Rachel became symbols of hope, their names spoken with reverence around the globe. But for them, the real reward wasn't fame. It was knowing they had helped protect humanity. As they stood together on the observation deck of the Aegis Dawn *, watching the stars shimmer in the distance, Rachel broke the silence. "Do you think we'll ever know why the ancients chose us?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe we already do. Maybe it's because we're willing to fight, not just for ourselves, but for each other." With the Krylos defeated and new allies emerging among distant stars, humanity stepped boldly onto the galactic stage. The summoning signal had been a test, and they had passed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them not as individuals, but as one united species.